Hello, dear colleagues. Добрый день, уважаемые
Again,
участники.
good afternoon, dear colleagues. Allow me to greet you today at a very renowned event. It's the second day of the Central Asian Trade Forum, Central Asia Development and Prosperity. My name is Aybek Ulikeyev. I am going to be moderating the panel session, and we are going to have a very interesting discussion today. We're going to talk to professionals in the market and listen to opinions of a lot of experts from different countries. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the organizers of today's forum for these unprecedented and useful and extensive days. Yesterday was an opening of the forum. We're continuing the work of the forum today. And now we're going to have a 1-hour session dedicated to the regional challenges, needs, and opportunities of e-commerce in Central Asia. And I can say that I would like to thank our countries, first of all, our partners, all the countries who expressed an interest and supported this forum, and governments of these countries as well. Thank you very much for your support. And thank you for supporting this initiative at your level, and for us it is very important. And I would also like to, before we start the session, I would also like to say that this session is going to be recorded, and we have a live broadcasting of the session on YouTube. After the completion of the session, you can watch a recording of the session on our YouTube channel and on our website, on the website of the forum. In addition, I would also like to say that for your convenience and for the convenience of the speakers, we have the function of simultaneous translation. But for that, we would like to ask you to mute your mics. And for those who would like to ask questions and address them to speakers, you have a chat box available in Zoom. I will read through all the questions, definitely, and we will go through all the questions together at the end of the session. And I would also like to say that for all the participants, 2 versions of this forum are available, and to switch between the languages, you can in the Zoom application you can press the icon on the bottom of the screen and switch to the language that's convenient for you. In addition to that, we have YouTube channels, 2 YouTube channels. If you're watching us from a mobile device, you can watch it in Russian or in English in YouTube, which is also available on the website of the forum. And of course, if you have any difficulties or technical issues, you can contact our technical support team on the website of the forum and online. You can always post your request, ask your question, and get help. Let's move on to the actual session and discussion. And before I turn the floor to the panelists of today's session, who are highly respected professionals in their business, I would like to say that the relevance of today's forum is very apparent, because in the light of the hardships that Central Asia had to go through, historically, geographically, with no access to the sea, because we're landlocked and our economies are developing, and because COVID-19 and the pandemic had a severe impact for the whole world, but we're still faced with challenges. We have opportunities that help at a certain point in time, and nobody would envision that COVID would attribute to a situation where people being in a lockdown started spending more time online and getting education, buying things and shopping for goods and services, and nobody could envision that would help in the development of e-commerce in our region as well. And before I start, before I turn the floor to our next panelist, and this is Kati Suominen. She is an expert on e-commerce and the Palladium. She's a founder of Next Trade Company, of the USAID Futures Growth Initiative. She's also an expert of USAID's Future Growth Initiative aimed at development of entrepreneurship and business strategies, business environment. She's an author of a number of books on e-commerce with a vast experience of working in countries of South America and Africa. And it's my great pleasure to turn the floor to Ms. Kati Suominen. The floor is yours.
Guess I'll start my video as well here. Very good. So thank you very much for having me in this very important panel. This is a fantastic event. I'm a huge admirer of what USAID is doing year after year in the region, organizing this event, and also appreciate the organizers as well as the governments of Central Asia who have come together also to support this important event. And of course, all of you for joining us today. Well, I guess, you know, we all would like to be in the region in person and come and meet and greet everybody. But at the same time, I guess this panel also shows the power of digitization and technology in bringing us together, just as e-commerce is doing for small and large businesses around the world. COVID, as we're looking at Central Asia, has truly created new challenges for companies, big and small, in reaching the consumer who is now going increasingly online. And some companies have an adjustment period to reach the consumer. Others are more readily digitized and face fewer challenges. At the same time, this episode, I think, has created opportunities for all companies to modernize, to digitize, to create an omni-channel business, to reach the consumer, which, you know, inevitably, with or without COVID, is migrating online. We've done in my company, I guess IBEC was describing this, done some studies around the world on how e-commerce enables companies, particularly in international trade, which is of interest to this particular audience. And what we have found, market after market, from Africa to Latin America to Asia and advanced markets, is that e-commerce use is very highly correlated with trade. Companies that are selling online are much likelier to export than companies that do not sell online. Typically 10 to 20% of companies in any one market export. When you look at e-commerce sellers that use e-commerce very intensively, 50 to 60% of those companies export, and they tend to export to multiple markets. And this shows the power of e-commerce, not only for companies to identify customers, but for customers to identify the companies and find sellers much more readily, lowering the fixed cost for companies to seek export markets. We see the same on the import side. Companies that are using e-commerce to buy goods and services online are much likely to import, precisely because they have ability in e-commerce to identify consumers around the world. We also see that companies that are selling on global marketplaces, such as Amazon, eBay, or Etsy, are even likelier to be exporting. 90% of eBay sellers export typically to more than 10 markets. So e-commerce is a great enabler of companies' sales, but also of their exports and trade. We have also found other benefits, such as that companies of all sizes are able to secure new customers. It's actually amazing when you look at even micro firms and small firms. When they have started to sell online, they report that they have reached new customers domestically. They have increased their margins. They have increased their sales. They have become more profitable. Many of them have been able to hire new staff, about 20%. About 15, 20% have hired new services in their economies. So this just goes to show that e-commerce has these catalytic impacts in economies as well, benefiting economic growth and the creation of an ecosystem where some companies sell online and then they hire logistics services, IT services, and financial services as well to enable their growth. And particularly larger companies, when you look at their benefits from e-commerce, they tend to already be able to secure new international customers. They start exporting for the first time, oftentimes when they sell online. And we are also seeing other in empirical studies, we're seeing other benefits, such as e-commerce is enabling the rural consumer to access the same basket of products as available to urban consumers, which then raises welfare of rural consumers. Rural companies are also able to use e-commerce to gain access to parts and components and grow their competitiveness. So no matter how you look at this, the gains are positive, and we are also seeing some reduction of disparities between genders. So women-led firms do just as well, oftentimes better, in fact, than as men-led firms using e-commerce. Now, we had a chance in the past number of months to look at this setting in Central Asia, how these trends play out in Central Asia. And we did this more through discussions with several leading companies that are here today with us. What we discovered is that the market is still quite nascent. It's kind of an up and coming e-commerce market. While there's connectivity, there are digital payments. E-commerce is still only 4% of retail sales in the region, compared to China, where it's 20%, UK 20%, United States 18%. So there's still a lot of growth to be had. I guess the message is positive more than anything. And we found 6 major opportunities. One is that the younger people particularly kind of younger people and people who are more urban in the region are already shopping quite a lot online and have increased their shopping now that with COVID. But then there's the second segment of people that are using internet for social media, using internet to get news, that are also now starting to shop online as they gain confidence in payment products and digital transactions. Then there's the third segment that is still perhaps more rural, more in third-tier cities, but perhaps those are the next ones then to come. Second, we're seeing, as we'll see in this panel, several outstanding companies that are creating the ecosystem for Central Asia, such as Namba Group, Babylon, Le Bazaar. We have companies such as Couvet, Giber, Mato, a number of companies that are either creating the logistics, payments, financing ecosystem that undergirds and digitized to enable digital transactions, both B2B as well as B2C. And then we have companies that are enabling the consumer to purchase products and services, particularly supermarkets, online grocery stores, and so forth. And we hear from colleagues at Le Bazaar in a moment. So the ecosystem is kind of emerging and being built in front of our eyes. Third, we also saw that many, particularly mid-sized and large companies, are really hungry for digital solutions, are looking to engage in a digital transformation, particularly in sectors such as apparel, retail, food products, textiles. They are already selling B2B, and they are testing kind of the digital channels, and they want to grow further. And these companies are kind of very nicely positioned for digital transformation. They just need some more knowledge about the leading edge technologies that they can leverage. Fourth, we are also seeing that Central Asia has realized, many actors have realized that you are in a very nice geographic position between Europe, Asia, as well as Middle East. And this could open opportunities for the region to become an e-commerce transshipment hub. And finally, we have found a lot of interest among the regional players, government as well as private sector, to work together across borders, together as a region, to create the enabling environment, the policy environment to support e-commerce sales. At the same time, of course, there are challenges, as there are in any market. And just to highlight some, the use of cash is still very high in B2C transactions, and the B2B transactions are quite paper-based. The invoicing payments are quite paper-based, so there's a lot there to be done. Second, kind of logistics, warehousing, and fulfillment solutions are still quite kind of old school compared to the leading edge solutions, kind of Class A warehouses and things like that we have in advanced markets. Third, what we discovered is that companies understand what they understand what they need to become competitive in digital economy, but they don't necessarily know about the optimal solutions. And that's one of the purposes of us bringing these panels together on e-commerce, for local companies to learn about the technology solutions and the leading edge, best in class solutions globally that exist there with companies like local companies as well as global companies like MasterCard and PayPal, VTEX, and many others. We have also found that SMEs have yet to kind of use e-commerce as a growth lever. They sell on social media, but they are not yet necessarily mounting their own online stores. Again, a huge opportunity to open the opportunities for SMEs around the region to grow through e-commerce. And then I think, we have encountered some kind of cybersecurity concerns, and just people's trust in e-commerce is online transactions is still something that we can improve on. So I'll leave it there, Aibek. We can discuss some of the solutions and ideas for the region, but I thought to set the stage a little bit what we have found in the past couple of months. Thanks so much.
So much, Katie. Спасибо большое.
Thank you. Just a few clarifying questions, if you let me, as for your study that you conducted in the region. It's a very interesting study, and all the results are very interesting. Could you briefly talk about the specifics and recommendations for our region that you noted or that you came up with for the Central Asian region in terms of the e-commerce development?
К сожалению.
It looks like Katie, I think we lost her, unfortunately. Hopefully she will join us a little later, and then we will ask her several questions when she is back. But in any case, yes, Umi John, please go ahead and ask the question. You had a question. Let's first listen to all the speakers, and you will address all the questions. And you can write your questions in the chat box, and I will read them after all the speakers have presented. Thank you. So the next presenter unfortunately couldn't attend, but we have a person who is going to replace him. This is Aman. Aman is a representative of PayPal company. He is also a representative of sales department and market development for Middle East and Africa. Aman, the floor is yours. I do apologize. Tahir Emrah is not with us today. That's why we are moving on to Arman Tantiev, who is a representative from Kyrgyzstan. He is the founder and CEO and the general director of Namba company, a tech farm and investment fund, tech farm investment fund. So Aman, the floor is yours. I do apologize. Thank you, Aibek. As Kati has just mentioned in her presentation, the truth is we are on the verge of a unique development for e-commerce. And as Kati mentioned, the events of 2020 related to COVID gave a very good push start to introduction of e-commerce in the region of Central Asia. Since we're working in several countries in Central Asia, and we see rapid growth, what was preventing development e-commerce from developing in the region before? The level of development of e-commerce is different in different countries, but there were different obstacles to that. And one of the obstacles in developing e-commerce in Kyrgyzstan was a lack of developed infrastructure for payment solutions. And payment solutions include development of the banking products and online fintech products, such as availability of paying possible tariffs for internet, for online services, and rates that would be affordable for card storage, etc., for banks.
Unfortunately, all these factors did not allow for the fast growth of e-commerce. Other factor was logistics, weak development of the logistics. But the events of recent years, our group paid a lot of attention to resolving these issues since we are present in several spheres of e-commerce, and to implement our products, we had to work through fintech sphere. And recently in Kyrgyzstan, we launched our product. It's a mobile payment system, which allows to pay and accept payments from different cards. And so in principle, it's just internet payment system with the good tariffs. And so we transfer it to all our partners. We do not limit it to our sphere, and we provide recommendations. And in regard to electronic commerce, one of our services, which started growing rapidly, is delivery of commodities, goods, and products, food products. And during half a year, we increased the volume 3 times, and we fold. And so online trade will allow people to buy goods and services, mainly it's goods, from what is present and being sold at the supermarkets, but stored at our warehouses. It's one of the new services, and we see similar development is possible in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, and the level of trade in terms of electronic commerce, in the sphere of electronic commerce, I think it will grow 3-4 times, 2-3 times bigger. And Association of Electronic Commerce and Government provides good support for us. They try to resolve the issues of taxation and creating conditions which will allow us to develop quick. And COVID events, they make people use without any additional advertising resources to just to start working and receiving all the services. E-commerce will grow 2-3 times every month in all the areas where we work. Aybek, I think I did sort of explained on the situation or what's happening in our companies. We are growing in all spheres, and we think that this sphere will grow rapidly and on several indicators. And 10, not only 10-20%, but 30-40% monthly. That allows us not only to develop it within one country, but allows us to apply e-commerce between countries, between our countries. Thank you, Oman. We have a question from our participants. Which payment system, card payment system, do you recommend to utilize at the Kyrgyzstan market? Can you please read the question again? So which card, which bank card do you suggest to use, or which payment system, card payment system, you recommend to use at Kyrgyzstan market? We are talking about cards issued by banks. They have to, you look at the tariffs, which banks are applying to this card payments, because each bank has its own system of tariffs. And I would not like to actually name certain banks. But if you want to, we can actually we can provide more detailed information on which cards and which banks have which tariffs. So thank you very much. I would like having an opportunity working at several markets, and what are the main challenges? Of course, I mean, you as mentioned, the first is the payment services or payment instruments. What are the other requirements on infrastructure and ecosystem should be created or should be applied for e-commerce developing dynamically and fast? It's clear that okay, so social networks introduction sort of are different in different countries. So in some places it's Telegram. For our region, it's a WhatsApp and other social networks which help to market the goods or services. So each country has its own specifics. And in addition to these solutions, technical solutions, there are two other things. First one is the logistics for e-commerce, selling, for example, goods and services, restaurants, food, and so this is the issue of logistics and delivery. And this current situation makes or pushes a lot of investors and startups to be created in Kyrgyzstan in the sphere of delivery, couriers. And now we have two, three foreign companies and several local companies. So in Kyrgyzstan, we can see that we have a good selection or good in terms of logistics services providers. And I think in principle, there is a good foundation in Kyrgyzstan for development of electronic commerce in the sphere of services and goods, and it will be successful. So half a year ago, there were some problems with that, but now in all the spheres, there are several companies which provide services in this area. So I think there will be less barriers, at least currently now, and we expecting from our government for the regulation of tax issues. There are some open issues, but we, with the help of association, we are discussing it with the government currently. I agree with you. Sorry, there are several other questions, and if I may, so first we will listen to all the speakers and we'll get back to the questions and discussions. The next word I would like to provide to Tahir Muratuzum. It's a PayPal representative. He's the head of sales and development of markets of the Middle East and Africa. Please, Mr. Emrah, the floor is yours.
Do I understand correctly that I'm up, or is it too early?
It's perfect.
Okay. So,
Так, мы вас
well,
слышим, но
Can you please turn on the camera? We don't see
Can you put
you.
your video?
yes. Let's do this. How are you, everybody?
так, я бы попросил. Все, мы вас видим. Please.
So,
We can see you.
I'd like to thank everyone for hosting me here. I have a little presentation that we could go over that was prepared for a similar context. So maybe let me just put that up on the screen if I may. Would that be okay?
Sure, go ahead.
Please, feel free.
So the main topic that I'm going to basically discuss today is the opportunity really around going digital, which is an obvious thing in today's landscape, but more so why merchants from all sizes should consider and should sell cross-border and sell to some of the main corridors for PayPal. I'm just going to give some of the overview from PayPal's size as a business so that you have an idea. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So basically, I'm just going to go over this from a context of an SME and a freelancer context, but we could keep building on this. So the reason that I'm just going to pass quickly, please stop me if I'm talking a little fast, and I'll stop. So basically, you know, the real opportunity, if you asked someone 5 years ago that was in the digital economy, where should a merchant really invest for a catalyst for the next 5 to 10 years? The easy answer would have been mobile, right? You need to have a mobile optimized page, a mobile optimized platforms, so that the new consumers that are connecting to the internet and shopping to the internet from their mobile devices will have those better experiences, great experiences, and they shop. Now that today is very different. So if you ask today, what is the new catalyst where merchants of all sizes should invest, is pretty much cross-border. Even in the light of COVID, even in the face of, you know, supply chains being disrupted and so on, still cross-border business is here to stay, and it's growing faster, twice as faster than the overall digital economy. So if you look at it on the left, I think it's no-brainer. I mean, if you have a business that's only that's only addressing the local audiences, you're only looking at a very small total addressable market. Where if you have a regional business, let's say CIS or MENA, you're looking at you know, somewhat of a bigger. But if you're thinking globally, that all of a sudden you're growing your addressable market to a $4 trillion economy among 2 billion people. And it doesn't matter what you sell and what you do, it's cross-border is there for everyone. I mean, you could think about transportation and leisure from a Uber and Airbnb context to all the way to services such as website designs and so on. But the more important, I think the headline here is two things. What's your addressable market? The bigger it is, the bigger business that you'll do. And the international businesses pretty much level the playing field when it comes to competing with a large enterprise with a lot of capital, because you all of a sudden, by growing your addressable market, you're leveling that playing field. So what PayPal is and who we are in a bit of a nutshell. Obviously, we're live in many markets in some forms or another, in about 202 markets. Majority of them are consumer franchises, and there's a good large amount of our markets that as a merchant you could also sell. But depending on where you are located, from a consumer perspective, we have a branded value proposition. So, you know, go online, you see the blue PayPal logo, click on it, pay securely and easily. Now, on the merchant side, there's a lot of other things that we do, right? So we do offer those type of experiences with PayPal branded, but we also offer a lot of the local payment methods that you might technically not be sporting. And those could be China Union Pays to GiroPay from Germany to Ideal from Netherlands. We do also have payout capabilities and risk management capabilities that we opened up to our merchants and partners through some acquisitions that we made with Simility and Hyperwallet. So, for example, if you have a global marketplace and if you want to do payouts to wherever in the world, we kind of have a very good solution for that. And who PayPal is, this is a bit of Q2, but the numbers are a little bit different. So today we have 28 million active merchants and 333 million active consumers, bringing us to 361 million active customers worldwide. This is only on the PayPal brand. So someone integrating PayPal, putting the option on their checkout, literally opens the door for 361 million customers around the world. But what it does get you is PayPal has been around. Some people say it even in a borderline being a dinosaur, and we are completely changing almost every other year. So I don't kind of agree. But you know, one of the benefits of being around for too long is you optimize a lot of these friction points early on, and you keep building and improve your product, and that reflects on the checkout conversions of PayPal. And there's a ComScore study that was done in 2018 and end of 2018 that actually looked into the large enterprises' checkout conversions. And so PayPal had almost double the conversion rate of the nearest competitor. And the nearest competitors you could think of Apple Pays and Google Pays and Whatnot Pays and so on. So those are the things that I kind of feel that PayPal brings on the table so that you don't have to invest in some of these things, as we all already are putting in the effort to improve the checkouts. Now, as a platform, just to go over a little bit on the value propositions, but so as a wallet, like I said, there's a new consumer franchise that we bring to the table. There's a lot of flexibility by bringing choice and opening up other schemes such as China Pay to all the way to M-Pesa in Kenya. We're compliant, obviously PCI compliant. We do comply with all of the European regulations and regulations wherever around the world that we have a presence in. There's a lot of these value-added services such as fraud management, which is a big concern. As a merchant, if you want to sell cross-border, that at that point, you kind of don't know the audience. So if you want to sell somewhere in Kenya, for example, or if you want to sell to the UK, will you get hit with fraud, right? So kind of these buyer and seller protections and fraud algorithms take that concern away and gets you to focus on what really matters, which is actually growing your business. So again, this is kind of repetitive, so I'll quickly pass through it. This is, for Q2 2020 figures where PayPal is present. So in North America, you have about 135 million active accounts. In EMEA, 150 million. Asia Pacific, 45. But I think the most important thing, because PayPal is either the market leader or very much tailing the market leader in these Western markets. But globally, we add about 35 million new customers to the platform. And this number, for example, in 2020, in light of COVID, is actually double. So we're almost adding 70 million active customers, to the platform. And if you are selling to the US, UK, or Canada, literally 40% of the digital buyers there are PayPal customers. So you'll have a hard time selling in those markets without it. And that's important with some marketplaces that I'm going to kind of get into, right? If you're selling on Etsy, if you're selling on eBay, why it matters to kind of have this options. Extend your reach, just give you a little bit overview so that you could kind of feel where our customer base fits into your business. So 45% of the customers of PayPal are in the age of 26 and 55, which this age group kind of plays out with the rest of the other statistics that you see. 56% are married, obviously in the age of 26 to 55. 64 of them is a homeowner, as you do tend to get to that level of income or earning at those ages. And you kind of earn a little bit more than the market average where you are, and you have kids, right? So these are all, obvious things for a customer group between 26 and 55. When it comes to the product itself, like I said, as being around for 20 years, you do one integration, and I always give the example of a universal converter for PayPal. You do the simple API, simple SDK integration, but all of a sudden the shop is open for these alternative payment methods such as, Venmo in the US, if you have an entity in there, SoFort, Ideal, and obvious, suspects like Visa and MasterCard. But these all come ready, and we even building on this experience for SMEs who don't have the bandwidth to kind of go in and put in the development effort. So should I integrate SoFort because you're getting some traction from some European markets, or GiroPay because you're getting some traction from Germany? Well, don't worry about it, because this is a dynamic checkout page. If the customer is identified to be a German customer of PayPal, then we'll actually show them the GiroPay option. Or if they're from Netherlands, we'll actually show them the Ideal option, and so on. So this is a dynamic pages that we want the customer to kind of feel very comfortable at the checkout, and that kind of reflects in our conversions. So PayPal versus non-PayPal checkout conversion by country, especially if you take North America and Europe, is that 80 to 82%. It's obviously huge when it compares to the US corridor, 88.7 compared to the nearest competitor being 48.7. UK, it's a little bit higher. And in Italy, we by far the largest. I mean, the conversion rate comparison with our competitor there is literally double, more than double. So this is the benefit of kind of getting into this digital economy early on as PayPal and keep improving over the last 2 decades. So one thing is obviously not going to talk about the UK conversion, discussed as previous slides, but 8.4%. If you sell to the UK, and this is somewhat of a similar figure, there's an abandonment in the cart, right? So it is really frustrating when you work so hard and invest your time and effort and even marketing on Google, Amazon, eBay's, and anywhere, and then all of a sudden customers abandon the journey at one point, and that's really frustrating because you kind of invested money and time to get that customer there, and then they leave. So the easier the checkout experiences and the early on in the journey that you have these experiences, you kind of don't give that chance for the customer to abandon and change their minds and they complete that transaction. When it comes to mobile, we are thinking always mobile first, about 40%, and that figure is almost at 50% today. All our volumes are going through mobile devices, and 64%, that number is close to 70, mobile shoppers use PayPal in the last year. So loyalty I think is also important. From the consumer franchise, as we are different than a credit card processor, you need to have a PayPal account to be able to use PayPal at a checkout. So 31% of customers said that they would not actually completed their last purchase if PayPal wasn't available and accepted on the checkout. 47% said they spent more. 36% spent more, and 47% actually did more transactions because PayPal was available at the checkout. It could be that it's the easiness of using, or it could be that peace of mind knowing that you have the buyer protection, you're not sharing any financial information with a merchant overseas and so on. PayPal Credit is another value-added service that we have, and we're investing and building on this offer quite a bit. And this is something that I think merchants of all sizes should consider going forward in the light of COVID. Reason being is, unfortunately, this is a time of age that people are nervous about their job security, losing their jobs. Incomes are going down one way or another. Business is low in a lot of parts of the world, right? It's just a new world. And if you think about it, people are hesitant of spending on non-essential goods. And how do you kind of get those customers that are borderline, but thinking about the affordability, the price components at checkout, which is playing more and more part of that decision journey in minds of the consumers. So offering a credit instrument gives that flexibility to the customer at a checkout to know that they could split that transaction, that $100 transaction into 4 installments or 3 installments and so on. And that's huge. And this is statistics that was done pre-COVID. So a 28% increase in average order value is huge. But think about it today in COVID context, where you're only buying groceries or your essentials and here and there, you're not spending as much, and having that credit and flexibility to address the affordability of an item, especially if you're selling something in above $50 or $75. It's important to kind of have a credit instrument. And I just want to maybe touch base in case someone is kind of thinking about these things on the payout side. So we have made an acquisition in the last year and two to build our payout capabilities and our risk capabilities. And Hyperwallet acquisition was made to build our payout capabilities. And if there's anything that's a global requirement to do settlements to a bank account, to a PayPal account, to a Venmo account, to Marco Libre accounts. So anything and everything that's global and requires a payout, Hyperwallet is literally it's the Mercedes of the service there. And if you are a freelancer, maybe I'll stop there to see if there are any questions. I don't want to go over my time. I could touch base on a couple of things on freelancers, but maybe we could leave that aside. Too much sharing?
Спасибо большое.
Thank you,
господин
Mr.
Tahir Imran.
Tahir Imran. Thank you for a very detailed presentation. It was very interesting, but unfortunately, we are running out of time for the questions, and I suggest we move on. We have several other presenters, and once they've presented, we will be able to start the Q&A session and discuss all the questions. Thank you very much. So stay tuned, and I would like to turn the floor now to the next presenter. He's representing Uzbekistan, Mr. Bakir Adibjanov. He's a co-founder. He's a founder of the Lebazar Uzbekistan company. This is a marketplace, but he also has very rich experience in payment systems and payment tools. And he is one of the pioneers and authors or co-organizers of the first payment system in Uzbekistan with a great experience in entrepreneurship. And it would be very interesting to listen to you, Mr. Botir. The floor is yours.
For this great opportunity to hear our esteemed colleagues and also share what is happening in our side during this COVID and the post-COVID period, if we can call it post-COVID yet. Mainly, I would like to talk the current trends in our market and how the Lebazar was dealing with current situation in terms of the COVID. So we started feeling the first hit of COVID in Uzbekistan, sometimes the first quarter of this year, and starting March, government started initiating several measures how to prevent the widespreading of this disease, and there were several measures being taken for this purpose. And of course, on our side, as one of the leading e-commerce players in the market, we started seeing immediate growth. But growth comes with a lot of problems, especially during the COVID period of time. We have witnessed several problems, and some of them we have dealt with more resources pouring in, and some of them were too much of a structural and involving the government. One of the primary problems we have witnessed was logistics. Unfortunately, the logistics ecosystem for e-commerce in our country was not ready for this kind of turbulences, and that's why all e-commerce players suffered a lot. Especially government imposed several layers of restrictions for movement, including the cars and all type of the vehicles, and that's why our transporting agents and the delivery guys had to go through the very difficult routine of the imposed by the government, so to get to be allowed to continue working as a careers. Second problem we have witnessed was in terms of the digital payment. Digital payment is still on rise in Uzbekistan. I cannot say that we are still 100% digital. Cash is still the king, unfortunately. There are a number of local initiatives trying to digitize the payment ecosystem. But I would say from our own experience, e-commerce is almost 60 to 70% is still cash-based. There's a cash on delivery. That was one of the primary reasons how the e-commerce suffered a lot during this period of time. Of course, one of the primary reasons is that people were a little bit reluctant and worried to accept cash and deal with the cash, because the cash is one of the primary reasons for carrying this bacteria and the disease. I mean, and secondly, some newcomers to the market. I mean, like some offline players who started and have been forced actually to start dealing online, couldn't easily implement payment solutions because they don't have an experience. Payment solutions had a lot of bottlenecks on their own because they were not ready for this kind of big wave of newcomers to the market, and the whole mess started afterwards. And they still end up mostly dealing with cash. But there was a still growth, and we managed to grow on some peak days about 5 times of our usual order counts, and that was not, didn't come very easy. Again, apart from the logistics issues, we have had issues regarding the dealing with some products availability because the borders were closed. Some of the products were not easily available, but this problem was resolved very quickly by our partners. So they have established steady supply of all necessary products. And since we're dealing with a grocery, government supported all grocery imports and local logistics for that. And soon we have recovered from that. Talking from the industry standpoint, there was a very interesting trend. All industry players united during this difficult time. We didn't see each other as competitors because we have to be dealing with similar issues and similar problems, like including logistics, government restrictions, hiring new personnel and training them. You should understand that we were completely banned visiting our offices, and all the interviewing process and the hiring procedures, everything was moved to online. And this was an immense experience for everybody to move immediately. All the processes, some of them were not very efficient, I would say, but still we tried to cope with that using the Zoom and all other possible communication tools. And of course, we have witnessed the huge growth of our costs during this period of time. This was due to several costs associated with COVID prevention measures we should have taken, because we have provided gloves and masks and some one-time cover for our delivery guys. And all of this together, of course, affected our bottom line. So it's in very general, but I should say that the wave passed, the peak of the wave passed in Uzbekistan. Starting April, we seen the decrease in the number of infections, and the overall situation got more or less stable. We have seen the number of orders getting stabilized in end of summer, but currently there is now little more worry about among the population. I wouldn't say this is a new wave or something like that, but during this cold period of time, people try to be more secure and they try to rely still more on e-commerce. And we're trying to deliver the services in a good manner so our customers stay happy. I'm happy to see that all the participants here, and especially the representative from PayPal, because we can see, I would say that from the statistics standpoint, Lebazar is one of the biggest exporter, online exporter from Uzbekistan. I wouldn't say we're exporting goods, but we have a huge Uzbeks diaspora living in neighboring countries, in far other countries like US, Europe, and Middle East and other places. During the COVID and all this period of time, all of them tried to help the parents and family members living in Uzbekistan using our platform and paying by Visa and MasterCard. I'm sure if there was PayPal enabled during this period of time, I'm sure there would be sales and different figures. So I don't know why still that PayPal is not present in Uzbekistan. If there was a chance, I would like to talk afterwards after our panel with the representative to discuss this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diabatu, for your very detailed account of this situation in Uzbekistan. And I would also like to express my hope on behalf of the region. I realize that PayPal is only available in Kazakhstan for now. We're negotiating rates for transactions. So there are negotiations that are ongoing, but in our countries and other Central Asian countries, and Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, specifically, PayPal is not available, and we would be happy to have them here, and we're calling on them to sit at the negotiation table and consider the possibility of being represented in our countries. And I would like to turn the floor to Mr. Yasar Uzer, who is a senior managing consultant on cybersecurity of the MasterCard company. And it's a great honor for us to have you here on the panel. The floor is yours.
So yeah, all the panelists have spoken about the benefits of e-commerce, and obviously it's important, but there's a trade-off. There is the cybersecurity point of view to all this, because like you would go to a grocery, right? There's certain reasons. So you obviously need to trust the product, right? It needs to be a good product. But if you know there's a thief, and if you know that you're being robbed at that grocery, you probably wouldn't go there, right? And you would also not recommend it to anybody to go there. So this is the same for the digital part. So also digitally, the platform needs to be secure. So I want to give you certain statistics about cybercrime, actually, which is a problem for the whole world, not only in Central Asia, but for the whole world. So statistics say that actually 50% of all businesses around the globe, they are not prepared for cyber attacks. So this also includes e-commerce providers. And there's a reason for it, because every 11 seconds, right? Every 11 seconds, one company is a victim of a cyber attack. Right? This is really a really interesting number. And every web page, so if you click on a web page, 1 in 13, so every 13th web page, there is some kind of malware. So if you click on it, you can download a certain virus. And this is actually a quite profitable business as well, because we estimate that the damage of cybercrime to the global industry is $350 billion US dollars probably in 2021. And it's also quite lucrative to work in this business, because if you're a cybercrime specialist and if you go to the dark side, you can earn approximately $30,000 US dollars, which is 10 to 15% more if you do traditional crime, right? Instead of being a thief, it's better to be a hacker, because you can definitely earn more money if you intend to. And this is a costly game also for every industry, because we estimate that in average, the cost of a cyber breach for a company is $3.8 million US dollars. This means obviously there's less and there's more. So some companies, they have billions of loss due to a cybercrime, and some companies obviously have less. But the average is 3.8 million. This is really a huge number. And for merchants, the average cost is to lose one data set globally is $119 US dollars. So imagine if you lose thousands of customer data, it can cost you really a lot of money. And this is obviously global statistics. This may vary in regions. And in Central Asia, this is a bit less than $119 US dollars, but still a quite number if you lose a lot of customer data. So due to that fact, companies also investing in cybersecurity, right? They want to protect their infrastructure. And globally, the investment currently is around $150 billion US dollars into cybersecurity. Like, this is technology, processes, investment in people. And we expect that this will grow in 5 years, or 4 to 5 years, to $350 billion. This is more than double companies will actually invest in cybersecurity. Nevertheless, though, you would expect a company invest more, so the risk needs to decrease, but unfortunately, that's not the case. So in 2014, only on the card side, right? The fraud losses around the world were $18 billion in 2014. So guess what? In 2019, it was again almost 50% more, $28 billion. So in average, this is the impact of only card fraud losses, right? And previously I said it's 350 billion all in all for whole the world, expected to be in 2021. And it's not only from point of money, because if you want to do business, like I gave the example in the first place, people need to trust you. It's all a matter of trust. So we made certain surveys around the globe, and our customers said like 44%, almost half of the customers we have made this survey said they are concerned that actually their data might be stolen in a cyber attack. Almost half of the attendees. So maybe you can also think like, are you concerned? Probably half of you will say, yes, I'm concerned about the data breach. And more 55% of the customers said, for instance, for banking industry, that they consider changing their bank because they are considered that their bank might be a victim of a cybercrime, right? Almost half of the people said that. This is really interesting numbers. And more interesting is that 60% on the merchant side, they said they will not shop with the company, unlikely to shop with the company when they know that there was a previous data loss, right? They said they will unlikely. And out of that, 12% said they would for sure not shop any goods from a company when they know that there was a cyber breach. So it's actually all a matter of trust. And so as you would not do business with someone you do not trust, you would do not business where you think that the infrastructure is not secure. And lastly, there is if you Google it, there is a page called National Cybersecurity Index, right? And you can see that it's like all the countries, they get a certain score, right? Best to worst. And for the Central Asian region, we see that, for instance, Kazakhstan is number 64 out of 200 plus countries in the world. Turkmenistan is number 90. Unfortunately, Uzbekistan is number 90, and unfortunately, Turkmenistan is number 155 in terms of security. Kyrgyzstan is 112. So also in Central Asia, there is definitely room for improvement. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward if there is any question.
Thank you very much, Yasar. Thank you to all the speakers of this panel session for their very interesting presentations and very useful information for the market. And if I may, our panel was broken into two parts. So the first one was dedicated to business development and investments, and second is now we are switching to part two, moderated by Kati Somamen. And it will be dedicated to ecosystems of e-commerce and development of policies of e-commerce. So with great pleasure, I pass the mic to our new moderator, Kati. The word is yours. And we all stay here in the panel discussion and continue discussing.
Thank you, Aybek. I guess you turned the baton over to me. Spasiba. The time just flew when we had such a great panel, so we'll just slide seamlessly to the next one. Don't go anywhere. We have a wonderful set of speakers coming up as well. The purpose of this panel is to discuss the ecosystem and policy development for the region, and really following up on the panel that we just had to discuss how we can accelerate e-commerce development in the region and ensure kind of secure, frightened by what Yasar was reciting about cyber attacks. So we really want to ensure secure but transparent and efficient transactions in the region. We have great speakers to discuss this from different angles, from the policy angle of how we can ensure that the policy environment is conducive to e-commerce and enabling firms to transact seamlessly domestically as well as across borders, as well as, of course, consumers, that they feel protected, they feel safe to shop online. We want to discuss solutions for the ecosystem. Particularly, we have fantastic experts on payments here and digital transactions and how we can accelerate the use of digital payments in the region as well as in cross-border commerce. And finally, we want to discuss kind of the digital transformation of companies and how to accelerate that in the region, given that there is such a tremendous interest among companies to reach the consumer online. So without further ado, I'll turn to our panel. We have really a star-studded panel, and we have as our first speaker, Ms. Saudat Tursunbayeva. I hope I pronounced that correctly. She's the president of Shark Ayoli International Women's Public Foundation, and I believe she is going to share with us her knowledge about the Uzbekistan digital economy and the policy reforms that are being sought in Uzbekistan currently. So please, Ms. Tursunbayeva.
Good day, dear colleagues. I'm very glad to welcome you on behalf of our International Women's Foundation, Women of East. And we are working at the market as NGO for 21 years. And from the beginning of our activity, one of the areas of our activity was development or assisting developments of this sphere. If we talk about a digital economy or electronic economy of Uzbekistan, 2020 was announced by our president as a year of science and enlightenment education in e-economy. On 21st of April, there was a new decree adopted by our president for wide introduction of e-government and e-economy. What this important decree is all about. The first thing is to expedited creation of the digital economy, taking into consideration increasing of GDP by 2023 by twofold, and development of the e-government system. So the share of the e-services reaching 60% by 2023. And the third very important is increasing the system of services in e-commerce 3 times higher by 2023. And we approved the list of priority projects for the e-technologies development and communication from 2020 to 2022. So under the auspices of the high school, we're opening the Institute of trainers, train the trainer on the issues of the international digital integration, digital economy, and this scientific council has a representative of Massachusetts Institute of Stanford University and Housing Fund and Applied Information Technologies Institute. Besides, there was a decree adopted by the president on approval of the strategy Digital Uzbekistan 2030 and the measures of its effective implementation. Though the ones which allows to introduce digitalization in all the spheres of life. And for that, the local administrations are involved in this process. Me, as a deputy of the Kingat of Tashkent Oblast. I am from 11th of November, sorry. I am the head of the working group on IT platform monitoring, sustainable development of IT platform of Tashkent Oblast. Tashkent Oblast is quite big region. It's almost 3 million people, and the objectives and the goals of our working group, which has the state structures representatives working in it, is to monitor and provide the development concept for this platforms. But if we talk about the experience of working experience of our organization, the first startup in the sphere of IT was implemented from 2001 to 2003, and it's almost 20 years ago. We created our branch internet provider company, and as the only women organization, female organization in this post-Soviet territory, so we received a license for telecommunication services, and for 2 years we were working on this project with invited investors. In 2003, and Shakhtar Aton was reorganized our project of Shakh Telecom company. So Shakh Telecom company is one of the 5 best internet providers of our country. And we do not participate in this business anymore because from 2003, we started a new startup. So we formed an initiative group to create a TAS6. This is the interaction system of the data transfer. So development of national traffic, data traffic. And now it's the it's a platform which unites 46 companies. TAS6 provides free access to social networks like educational portals, so which unites Zoom, which unites 10,000 schools and universities and other educational facilities. But if we talk about development of e-commerce, in Uzbekistan, it's still a lot of things to do. It's an open field. And I would like to say that recently we had a project, a startup. It was called Women and the Digital Economy, so supported by USAID. And we're very grateful for their support. We started like this big project in Tashkent region covering women, female entrepreneurs from 7 cities and 15 counties in Tashkent region. It's 880 female entrepreneurs are involved in this project. So our task is, so we organized a seminar, workshop. We invited very good, serious presenters or trainers like Umid Burhanov, who is the founder of Association of E-Commerce. And also our projects started with the support of USAID and the Senate of our Republic of Uzbekistan. Under the sort of with the support of our chairman of the Senate, and ministry also started supporting us because because now female employment of women in our country is a very important, crucial, issue. So we trained about 200 women, and the indicator of our work is that recently there was a decree of the president issued that if women, for example, participate in some training and receive a certificate of compliance in order to start their business, they can get 33 million sums. So micro loan, they can receive micro loan up to 33 million sums with only 14% interest. So in our project received this quantum jump, because of that. And during last training, we had a workshop not only 80 women. We didn't have just 80 women. We had more than 80 women, which we initially planned. And another indicator is that we do lack knowledge to. Some people do lack knowledge to open up internet shop, or not legal knowledge, but they don't have experience, for example, developing business plans and things like this. And in order to support our project, we launched another project of the 2-year workshop. So we selected from the trained women. We've chosen the most well-developed projects. And now we have the second workshop. We trained 55 women. We ran 2 days workshops where we trained them to write business plans and how to get it to the bank, And I'm very grateful to the organizers that today I received a lot of information. And of course, it's the 21st century. It's the century of breakthrough technologies and a big flow of knowledge. We all are using. So we gathered people with knowledge around us, and this collective intellect provides a lot of benefit, So, and I would like to thank USAID for our project, for support of female entrepreneurs. And I would like to thank our initiative that they are actively involved in implementation of this program as women and digital economy. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was a fantastic presentation and a very visionary and pioneering work that you're carrying out. Truly impressive and exemplary for the entire region, and I would say also beyond. This is really an amazing scale that you have attained. So congratulations on all your progress and years of impressive work. Next, we'll turn to a different country in the region, Kazakhstan, which of course is perhaps the biggest e-commerce market, has been the more dynamic one for the past number of years, at least with the numbers that I have access to, but many other countries are now following in the footsteps of Kazakhstan. We have Mr. Anton Zinoviev, who is the Senior Policy Expert for JCA, USAID's Future Growth Initiative, that has organized this panel as well. So Anton, please share us some insight of what's going on with e-commerce in Kazakhstan, and what kinds of measures can be taken to support the e-commerce ecosystem in Kazakhstan further.
Hello, Kati. Hello, everyone. Good to see you. And of course, it's a pleasure for me to attend this forum and provide information I have and share my experience and expertise. I would like to answer the questions, and I would like to provide some information, but if you don't mind, I will provide information in Russian just to make sure I deliver it in an accurate manner, okay?
Thank you very much. All over the world in Kazakhstan, the e-trade expanded. So citizens of Kazakhstan fully enjoyed, the e-commerce, buying things from the online stores. And I might say that in Kazakhstan, we have this mass transfer of economy into the e-regime or digital regime. So for the first half of this year, the number of the electronic purchases was 20 million goods, which is 2 times more in comparison with the similar period of the last year. And during the pandemic period, the actively developing market is the food and farm market. So internet stores which are selling food products and pharmaceuticals.
For example, purchase of food products in some popular places went up sevenfold in the first 4 months of the lockdown period in Kazakhstan. And just to mention, in Kazakhstan currently we have more than 2,000 internet shops and about 13 different platforms and marketplaces. Also, in the light of the growth of online trade in the first 6 months of this year, the volume of transactions using payment cards went up relative to by 60% relative to the same period last year. In monetary value, it's about $57 billion US dollars, and the number of cashless transactions doubled, and the amounts increased 2.5 times. And the main share of these operations or transactions were online. And the overall share of the market of e-commerce for the first half a year of 2020 accounted to $1 billion US dollars, which is 9.5% of the total volume of retail in Kazakhstan. And just summing up, and about when we talk about the overall situation in Kazakhstan, I would like to say that e-commerce in the country demonstrates colossal growth rates, and that makes consumers really happy. Consumers who are actively moving to online, and this rapid growth stimulates the understanding of among trading companies and increasing and improving their quality and fighting for new clients. So we're right now witnessing a true market electronic economy in Kazakhstan. As for government support, development of e-commerce in Kazakhstan started in 2006 when the country just started having first internet shops online shops, and if I remember correctly, that we had the maximum of about 20 stores that were drastically different from other companies that we're so used to be seeing. Kazakhstan had. It took Kazakhstan about 10 years of active work in reforming the legislative framework and supporting e-commerce companies and in applying e-money, electronic money, and providing significant state support to countries involved in the sale of internet sales of products and services. And one of the most significant, and I would say the pivot points in development of e-commerce was 2017. This is when Kazakhstan approved program Digital Kazakhstan, and one of the points there was to development of electronic and digitalized trade and transfer to digital economy. And part of this program contained the the roadmap for e-commerce for 2017-2020, and some of the objectives and goals and the objectives of this section of the state program was to stimulate cashless and limitation of cash-based turnover, raising awareness, financial awareness of population, creation of regulatory and infrastructure to improve activities of the business and population in e-commerce. Almost all the activities of this program defined by the roadmap were implemented. And for example, in 2018, the mechanisms of open platforms on open PPI were implemented. Stimulation methods for cashless and limitation of cash turnover were introduced, and we implemented work on improving the legislation on e-commerce was improved, and protection of consumer rights as well. The legislation provided for measures to develop e-commerce, determined participants and players of e-commerce, and define their rights and responsibilities. So in other words, a stable legal framework and a legal fund baseline was created to stimulate and promote e-commerce development in the country. One of the main important support for e-commerce development was adjustments of tax code in the last 2 years that provided for tax waivers for owners of internet shops. For these benefits, entrepreneurs have to provide information about all their transactions once a year, and if the internet store issues electronic invoices, they don't have to provide that information once a year. One more condition for getting a waiver, tax waiver, is the need to sign an agreement with a customer or buyer online. So having this public offer. And then internet stores have to have their own delivery service or have an agreement with an organization or an individual that would act as a courier or a shipper of the product that delivers a product to the final user. And the revenue should amount to 90% of the overall revenues of the company. And the entrepreneurs willing to get this waiver have to take an obligation to take payments, exclusively cashless payments from customers. So this benefit that allowed to significantly change the situation with e-commerce in the country. And this measure demonstrated and proved the diverse effect and had a diverse effect. First, it was assistance to business in terms of the reduction of the tax burden, which is a complete 100% tax waiver for them, stimulation of the transition to the online platform, and reduction of cash-based payments. And then it allowed us to move a lot of internet shops and legalize a lot of internet shops. And speaking about the follow-up steps, I can say that we've already developed and approved, the government already developed and approved the roadmap on e-commerce development until 2025, which provides for a number of significant activities or important activities aimed at a strengthening of Institute of Consumer Right Protection that procures goods through internet shops. This summer, some amendments were introduced into the law on consumer right protection, which provide for the which obligate internet shops to put a link in the public offering to the official website of the authorized agency with the contact information and the subjects of regulations or the regulation. So in other words, the consumer now is aware as what he or she should do in case of a dispute, if the dispute arises between him and the seller. And the code on the legal code was amended by some penalties were provided for and added to those laws for failure on the part of the sellers to comply to with their rights. So the e-commerce consumers and complaints of consumers will be received in a specially created system. And to promote the to be able to promote Kazakh businesses on the internet platforms, we developed the country partnership to move our country to international online platforms such as Amazon, Yandex, Alibaba, Zoom, etc. As far as I know, based on official sources, and I saw some publications, so about 50 companies have been selected to get access to the Alibaba platform as a golden supplier. And this premium status will provide access to the global audience and the possibility of comprehensive promotion on the market. On the global market. In order to continue working on further waivers, tax waivers, we're considering the possibility of reducing earlier thresholds that were established earlier that I mentioned to be able to get a waiver of up to 40% waiver of the overall annual revenue. So to be able to get this benefit, to get a 100% tax income tax waiver, internet income or revenue of the internet store should be at least 90% of the overall annual revenue of this business in general. So 90% of this revenue should be generated through online trade. And this threshold has, the intention is to reduce this threshold down to 40%, which is a very good indicator and will give an possibility for more internet companies to come clean and become legal, and more companies are expected to actually come online and do their business legally now because of this threshold reduction. So these are the main measures that the government provides in terms of support to e-commerce companies and to entrepreneurs who are working online and selling their products online. But in addition to that, I would also like to list several obstacles and challenges that our businesses are faced with. Of course, Kazakhstan just like any other country, is interested in developing its domestic market, and they have encountered a number of challenges in developing this sector. And I believe that it would be useful for everyone to learn this information. It would be interesting for our colleagues to learn about the challenges that Kazakhstan was encountered in creating this very good baseline and foundation for the e-commerce development. The initial factors that contain the growth of internet trade or e-commerce in Kazakhstan included, well, first of all, the low internet coverage in the country, and a low population of users, a low number of users, lack of trust, number two, lack of trust on the part of population to commercial transactions and e-commerce transactions, and the lack of awareness and unpreparedness on the part of the population to use such marketplaces and internet stores. Geographical limitations was one of challenges that existed in Kazakhstan. For Kazakhstani online stores, most of the internet stores were focused in Astana and Nur-Sultan, and insufficient mechanisms for financial transactions and the understanding of this transactions on the part of administrators of the websites and consumers, and no regulatory, full-scale regulatory or comprehensive regulatory base to administer and regulate e-commerce. So these are the problems and challenges that Kazakhstan encountered in the first decade. But currently, all of these challenges that I just listed have already been eliminated. However, with the development of e-commerce in the world and the easiness of access of internet resources, we're starting to see new challenges that are slowing down development of e-commerce in Kazakhstan, and these include the following. Well, first of all, most of Kazakhstan traffic, about 70%, is still it still goes to the other websites, and because we have very low quality useful sites in the country. An important characteristic that affects the dynamic of the content is global competition. And internet global competition is very pure, and being in Kazakhstan, a potential consumer can use not just national services or websites, but they can also use resources of other countries and provide it in other countries. Number two is the launch of a new project in Kazakhstan. They're difficult to implement because of the high global competition level. And there are a lot of international analogs that are much better because of their transnational level. And Kazakhstan developers have to use territorial benefits of Kazakhstan in order to advance their businesses. There are problems such as high level of shadow economy. This is what I mentioned earlier. And now the country and the government is taking steps by providing additional benefits and state support to shadow economy. But at the same time, there is a very high commission on interbank payments. Unpreparedness of small businesses and medium businesses, and delayed delivery of goods, which requires special attention and detailed approach to be fixed. In order to improve the current existing growth rate of e-commerce, we need to improve technical maintenance, and there's no institute of there is a very weakly developed consumer right protection institute, and that is very relevant for e-commerce and specifically in regulating disputes related to online transactions. And I mentioned that several times. The government is already undertaking steps by creating a regulatory framework to monitor and control and support customers in protecting their rights. And I hope that soon we'll be able to see the results of this work in Kazakhstan. But today the problem does exist. And at this stage of attracting or getting clients, a limiting factor is an insufficient promotion of e-commerce and players in e-commerce. And e-commerce is not well advertised on television or on street advertisements, and which does not generate a new customer base, and it is relevant. This problem is relevant for Kazakhstan, and being here in Kazakhstan, it's very unlikely that when you're driving on the street, you'll be able to see a billboard advertising an e-commerce place or some marketplace. When organizing access to electronic platforms, quite often we encounter technical difficulties, and industry players in e-commerce. And one of the most prevalent problems is an inability to adopt the systems to be used by for customers to be able to use mobile devices. Everyone now has a mobile phone, but we're using mobile applications much more often rather than desktop applications to get access to some internet resources. Nowadays, every internet store, to be able to survive on this highly competitive market, they have to have an opportunity to provide mobile applications to their customers. Unfortunately, not every internet store in Kazakhstan today, even some popular ones, have a possibility to provide an application, a mobile application for their customers, and I think this is a big disadvantage. Packaging, delivery of products is complicated by an insufficient level of transportation logistics system development, which becomes a reason for expensive and lengthy logistics, and quite often this logistics wishes to be better. And Kazakhstan currently, and companies that are providing logistical support are developing quite well and quite rapidly. However, today I believe that logistics and logistical infrastructure, they still have room to grow. And as I said earlier, the country has over 2,000 internet stores, but at the same time, to be able to get tax waivers. This is the state support measure that I mentioned earlier in my presentation in terms of an income tax waiver. Unfortunately, but we don't have very many companies that registered for it. So we have about 2,000 that exist, but those who applied for this waiver, less than a half applied for this waiver. What does it say? Tell us. It tells us that there is a need to further stimulate legal activities in this segment, and a lot of companies still remain shaded. A lot of them don't see any benefits or privileges or advantages in coming out and going to an open market and legal market and registering and legalizing their businesses. And we have to work on this. And I hope that the existing roadmap that was developed until 2025 and the measures that the government provides for in this roadmap will give positive results. To all the challenges that I just mentioned, I would like to add a low culture among consumers, a low level of awareness on the part of the population. Very low availability of credit finance for small and medium businesses, and unfavorable economic situation conditions that is explained by the high cost of the capital. So this is what I have on my list. These are I have 10 barriers or obstacles that Kazakhstan needs to overcome. But I think that other countries that are currently actively, countries in Central Asia that are actively developing e-commerce and would like to take it up to a new level, they have to consider the experience of Kazakhstan as a leader, as a locomotive of e-commerce development in the region. This is it for me. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Anton. That was a fantastic overview. We have only so much time, so let's move on to our next speaker, Bakhtiyor Muminov, who is the founder and CEO of Babylon in Tajikistan. We have another country. Bakhtiyor, I had a chance to meet with him some months ago, and of course, Babylon is a leading telecom company, and Bakhtiyor is now a pioneer in enabling payments also among the users of Babylon services, including QR codes, and has been at the forefront of e-commerce development in the country. Extremely impressive work. So please, Bakhtiyor, we'd love to hear what you're seeing in terms of a firm's adoption of QR codes and payments, and where you want to take this next as you connect SMEs in particular to enable transactions digitally. Thank you. Спасибо.
Здравствуйте, друзья.
Good afternoon, dear friends. Thank you, dear organizers, for giving me a possibility to take part in this forum. It's a very important forum for the region, I believe, and I do agree with a lot of presenters who spoke before me. We practically we have similar situations and approaches, and challenges are very similar. The only difference for Tajikistan is, as you know, 93% of Tajikistan is mountainous areas, and in telecommunication development and development of logistical chains require or have special requirements, or development of these areas have special requirements. Tajikistan is at the initial stage of e-commerce development, and recently, I think in 2016, we had four banks that went bankrupt, four large banks that went bankrupt, and prior to that, these banks were using the classical scheme for development, and they did not. They were not involved in new technologies. They were not adopting new technologies. And in 2005, we approached them to start introducing some e-commerce elements, and they couldn't accept us. They wouldn't work with us. But now that people have some negative experience, after people had some negative experience in terms of bank savings, people started having a fear, and they're trying to keep most of their money in cash, and that is in itself, it slows down the development of e-commerce, because the two main players are the seller and the buyer, and both of them have to have an opportunity and a possibility to do electronic transactions, to be able to buy a product using e-money or e-funds.
But just last year, after new banks emerged, new young banks that emerged, ambitious banks, which use new technologies, we sort of launched e-commerce. So last year, we could enter this market of e-commerce. So there are two companies, Babylon Mobile and Teta, which telecommunication services providers and mobile operators. When we talk about e-commerce, it's quite clear that we have to use technologies, telecommunication. So the main player in this business is telecommunications. So we started studying these technologies, and last year we developed some strategy. So we studied what we need, what has to be that both buyer and the seller has to be stimulated. We have to create infrastructure. We have to train them. And in the beginning of this year, when there was a strategy defined, the participants of the market understood that we have to create together the joint structure, systematize the approach, that we agreed that let's start joining our efforts, creating some kind of a platform like Association of Electronic Commerce. So we created it last year, and all four cell companies became members of that. 6 banks which use electronic purses, and we agreed to create a uniform QR code. In the beginning of this year, we were supposed to start all the planned measures, and then coronavirus appeared, and it changed all the plans. So it did change our plans so badly that we could not foresee what's going to happen in 2-3 months. And so for some reasons, for Kazakhstan, in Kazakhstan, there was like a 10-year smooth transfer to e-commerce. So because Kazakhstan, it was very smooth transfer, and they easily reached it, and we studied it rapidly. So Kazakhstan had a soft start. We had a very tough start. We just started, and then coronavirus gave us a push that everything had to switch to e-commerce quickly. So nobody could sell in real life. All the markets were closed, all the stores were closed, and we had to create elements of electronic commerce. And when there is a rapid start and rapid development of such technologies, there are a lot of short-term businesses start appearing. So they say, oh, I will start selling something electronically, and very fast. It's in a micro sort of sphere, it works fine. But if you try to transfer to a long-term sort of or scale up such kind of approach, most of the elements are not helping, but they're actually provide toxicity to the system. For example, if some bank starts to stimulate, promote electronic commerce, and some business starts selling electronically, and when it's small number of transactions, you can control it easily. But when the turnover is growing and they face systematic problems, because like there are three participants, courier, seller, buyer, courier, and each part has its own principles of work, of operation, each principles of work, operation, and so on. And the world e-commerce sort of say they already had the lessons learned. They already made their mistakes. Like if you look at AliExpress, Amazon, and so on, they demonstrated how these technologies could be used and developed rapidly. So the systematic approach with the possibilities of scaling up should be applied. But when there is a very rapid and fast growth, everybody thinks that his option on his road, his direction is better, and he can make money very fast. But with that said, they make mistakes or using wrong approaches. They create a precedent. And people, for example, use cash and they trust cash and they buy with cash, which they see with their own eyes. And the seller's business process is built on the cash flows. So it's very difficult to restructure the business and switch to the non-cash sort of system is very difficult. But in order not, if not, you have to work through the technologies, think through technologies, and if you do not come up with new methods, then it will lead to the worse sort of result. But if you sort of join all the players of the market, everybody looks at each other as a possible competitor, and that might create some negative consequences, which will become an obstacle for this first so rapid start of the e-commerce. And many elements of e-commerce will lead to the fear, of a merchant to start it. Like he tried, he thought, he hoped for the profit, but he failed, and then they stop, because they are scared, So, but the richest man in the world is the Amazon owner, and this is electronic commerce, and he sells everything. Anything there is everywhere in the world can be bought through Amazon. And people want to have something like this, but they don't have enough knowledge. They don't have enough education. They don't have enough skills, experience, and because they don't use systematic approach. But we try to join our efforts. We try to look at different details. We invited all the for example, those who service, for example, cash registers, we talk to them and what can you do? How can you upgrade your technology to actually not to use cash, but also adopt electronic payments, So IT companies, for example, the IT company said we have to revisit our application, in order to adapt to the market. And so some companies, they either ignore our requests or they ask for a lot of money, for their services. So then the players in the market appear which develop their own products, electronic products. But for many other countries, it took years and years to create such products. But for us, it had to be very fast. And we do understand that classic sort of approach of offline sales, it will probably disappear. It will be like a museum exposition, showing people, oh, this is how we were buying in the past, But things do change now, and many countries progressed really far. In our situation, yes, then the negative side is that we're the last ones jumping onto the train, and coronavirus prevented us from making slow and sequential small steps. But from the other side, you know, it allows us to actually, it created an incentive for making us do things faster, you know, and since our country is a smaller country, so we can actually try different options, try easier, you know, try different approaches. And so there are pluses and minuses, of course, to everything. But for us, it's important for all the participants of this process to start working on this. So we're involved in the government because they're starting to understand that they need to assist us. There are a lot of international organizations which are joining the process. We are working with USAID. We are doing some projects. I see, you know, there are a lot of international organizations participating in this process, supporting this process, and I hope and I think it will lead to some useful, good results. In terms of a Central Asian sort of format of development, I would like to suggest, whether we like it or not, we will come to the point of having uniform standards. If, for example, in the past, if like a QR code of some merchant or sales person, you know, in Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, or whatever, he could actually read it and then make a direct payment, not only the seller but also a buyer, you know. So if we could create some kind of a sort of a constantly operating platform where all the main players from Central Asia could actually talk to each other, create a uniform interface standard, they would make us, they would provide us a fast sort of a push, you know. If you look at the Amazon technologies, that there are two approaches. You can either send it to like the Amazon warehouses and they will provide the logistics, or you can actually provide your own logistics to selling stuff in Amazon. So the same thing in our country. So we have this free entrepreneur like zones, areas, you know, our country's free custom zones, you know, so where you could actually generate like the goods from where then they can provide logistics, you know. Each store not all stores can have their own courier program or courier like services, you know. So, and if for some companies there could be a centralized logistics network, maybe not one network but several competing ones, you know. And if we join our efforts, Central Asian countries, which have a lot of similarities like culture, economics, and things like that, so we could actually expedite, you know, the electronic commerce for a region, you know. So that is why I'm very glad welcoming such a forum. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak.
Thank you very much. It's very impressive work that you're doing, and this concept of kind of regionalizing the work and promoting regional integration is right on. It's spot on e-commerce, how we enable companies around the region to sell easily cross-border using similar standards and similar regulations as well. So we have, continuing with payments, we have our next speaker is Mr. Hakan Tatlici. He's the head of business development and digital payments for high growth European markets for MasterCard. MasterCard needs no introduction. It's a leading global payments network in B2C payments, of course, for decades, now also leading the development of B2B digital payments around the world. And Hakan, I'm sure you have seen a tremendous growth in digital payments during this COVID episode, but also probably a transformation of how people are using contactless payment solutions and so forth. So tell us what's going on out there in the broader world and what that means.
Of course. Nice to meet you, and pleasure to being here with you in this very valuable event with these valuable speakers all together. So actually, everybody mentioned about the highly rapidly growing e-commerce and digitization of the market. All that are really good developments for our market. From MasterCard perspective, we evaluate these countries as a high growth markets. High growth markets, including the meaning of this thing. So it's really high growth in payment sector. So because of that, we really care about this market. These markets are very important in terms of Mastercard point of view. We are trying to bring all our assets, products, platforms to this market because from scratch, we would like to establish right infrastructure in these markets with our own assets. Today, of course, beside of our investments, we have some research about the markets. We have some insights from another market. So today, I would like to share a little bit about this COVID impact in other markets, how they impacted, how they saved their business. So I would like to share that part of the business today. Since last few years, we have been seeing significant cash to card conversion all throughout the region, actually. But during this COVID period, that speeded up. We can say that we achieved 5 years goals in a few months in terms of the payment behavior change. It's not only as in cash to card conversion, but a total digital transformation from customer and merchant ends. The hero of the season is, of course, contactless. Even before the pandemic, there was an inclination towards the contactless use. But with the HIJAM becoming the main concern of the daily life, contactless feature on the card become essential, actually. We saw the need of to quickly work with the regulators to raise contactless limits to help people avoid PIN pad on their daily payments. Of course, contactless transactions is also possible through mobile devices via digital wallets without entering PIN to the POS device. With the extension of the card not present face-to-face transaction, issuer will have better and broader opportunities for the interaction and customization. Because previously, issuers didn't have any view on purchase interest of the cardholder until there was a transaction. Mobilization brought us interactivity with our customer and CRM data. Now we can predict customer intention to buy a certain good, his previous behaviors. Thanks to digital interactivity, issuers has more information about their cardholder and provide more engaging offers and guarantee customer satisfaction. So with all the information they receive, issuers may soon become shopping advisors of their customers as well. So they will more engage with their customers very soon, thanks to this digitization activities. In terms of online digital payments, thanks to smartphone penetration around 60-70% or 80% in some countries, mobile become much more important than before. And also all sellers realize that digital is new sales channels that brings them incremental revenues. Especially during this COVID period, there are 3 types of merchant, let's say. One of them, digital savvy merchants, which was born in digital, such as Netflix, Amazon, everybody knows these merchants. They are lucky and grew their business with new functionalities, such as bill payments, recurring payments, and card on file. I believe they will save their position after COVID as well. This kind of merchants started to diversify their customer reach channels. Moreover, they started to use chatbots, for example, voice commerce, wearables, etc. Second type of merchants are brick and mortar retailers who started to use omni-channel advantages such as click and collect. Customers can order product directly from websites or could choose a pay from a digital channels and pick it up from nearest shop, physical shop. Even mobilization and digitization brought us new concepts like omni-channel, where the best available example is Amazon Go. You know, I think most of you have heard about it by now. I would like to underline that one of the most important elements of omni-channel platform is user experience. If an entity wants to stand out among the crowd and has an ambition to become a challenger in the future, it should excel in UX facilities, just like Uber to open up this topic. There are many countries where English as a second language, like our region, is not very popular. Imagine you are in Ukraine or, for example, in Russia. It's really hard to communicate with the driver as English proficiency is very low. And all street signs are Kirill alphabet, which actually make it impossible for you to understand a thing. Let's imagine you are trying to catch a plane and time is of essence. If you use Uber, you just select where you want to go. That's all. They are doing all the thing on behalf of you for the payment. They are becoming more and more better day by day. And the last type of the merchant is one of the who has no digital outlets whatsoever. They have only physical shops, let's say. They are mostly SMEs. COVID gave them a sense of urgency to start their digital transformation, and they receive a great deal of help from enablers amid COVID. Especially all the system players started to bundle their products, their offers with that kind of migration, digitization migration to their customers. So with our own assets as MasterCard, with MasterPass, interoperable card on file and gateway solution, contactless functionalities via Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, and other device manufacturer wallet, we are, and also of course, money sent features of the MasterCard, domestically and cross-border, we are trying to facilitate daily life of our customers with our partners in all this region, all these markets, with banks, with fintechs, with all merchants and all other participants. If you have any question, I can answer. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Hakan. That's excellent and fantastic examples as well. Drive the point home, and very impressive to see MasterCard's inroads to the region and probably a lot of growth coming up. I've been successfully bargaining for more time for our panel since we have one great speaker still. Sure. So, and I've been successful at this. So if you wish to persist, we have another speaker, Pablo Leon Sarmiento, who is the head of VTEX for Asia. VTEX is the world's fastest growing commerce company that enables companies to create what Hakan was talking about, omni-channel capabilities. If you're a supermarket, if you're a brick and mortar company that wants to create an online channel, as many companies in Central Asia are, VTEX is a partner for these kinds of companies. I've known VTEX from Latin America. They started out from Brazil, but VTEX has now expanded, become a truly multinational of its own right, expanded offices in Europe, in the United States, in Eastern Europe recently, in Bucharest, Milan, and Barcelona. And Pablo is now heading out to Singapore to lead VTEX's Singapore unit. So we have a fantastic success story coming out of Latin America, and I think it's very applicable to Central Asia and enabling the digital transformation of Central Asian companies and enabling them to sell online. VTEX has been serving clients like Coca-Cola, Walmart, L'Oreal in global markets and enabling them to interact with their customers as well as with their suppliers. So I think Pablo will have a lot to offer. Pablo will also be available for a webinar at 6 p.m. Almaty time. So Pablo, perhaps you give us the appetizer and then we'll get the dinner after your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you today and share a little bit about what is VTEX and thanks to Kathy's introduction in today's event. I can help you have some actionable points on the way forward. And my objective in this very short presentation is to give you some actions you can take away from today's session. Later on in the webinar, I'll be going through in much more detail of these actions, but I want you to have some ideas of what you can do right now. If you are a business owner, a founder, an entrepreneur, a retail brand, a B2B, B2C, and you see this hyper competition in the region, what can you do right now so you can be successful? VTEX is a e-commerce platform. We are hosted in the cloud. We originated 20 years ago from Brazil, and throughout this time we've experienced tremendous growth. We are growing around 44% year over year. We have more than 15 offices globally. I'll be leading our office in Singapore, taking in charge of customer success office for all of our customers in Asia. We have more than 3,000 different customers already worldwide. We have more than 800 employees, and we serve more than 30 different countries that we have active operation right now. So there's something very different from VTEX, and essentially is that we believe in collaborative commerce. We want every single brand to be part of a ecosystem and to interact with every single other brand, regardless if it's B2B, B2C, and also payment providers, logistics, partners each brand can have. And this is the success case we've been having with different retail brands. So I've been listening throughout this evening about taking Alibaba, taking Amazon as an example. And what we believe in VTEX is that you cannot be successful on your own. Each brand has to work with the ecosystem. Each brand has to work with the government policies, with the payment providers, with the logistics companies, with all the different modules, so you can be successful in your company. So what we have done in VTEX is that we enable each brand that works with us. These are global brands: Carrefour, Walmart, Levi's, Lancome, L'Oreal, that work with us, and we help them being successful. So one of the premises is that, hey, you don't need to build any commerce technology. You don't need to build from zero a technology, a platform that will allow you to go directly to the consumer. We give you that technology. We maintain this technology, so we reduce your cost. We develop new capabilities every single day at no additional cost, but we help you reach out to your final consumer, either if it's a B2C commerce site or if it's a B2B or a marketplace. We help brands go out there and reach out. So what VTEX does is we give every single functionality a retail needs to be successful in e-commerce. These functionalities include catalog modules, payment providers. We already have them integrated in the platform. You don't have to think of integrating yourself with every single credit card, debit card, or payment method. We already have them integrated. We also believe in the integration with marketplaces. So for instance, we have a native integration with Amazon. You don't need to use VTEX and a different technology to connect to Amazon. We have the connection already in our platform. In Latin America, several new business models have been occurring in the past years. Probably you've heard about Mercado Libre. Probably you've heard about Rappi. We have these connections already. So we tell our customers, hey, you can use VTEX and move from VTEX to different channels seamlessly. And this is one of the advantages about collaborative commerce. We want you to use our platform and collaborate with every single channel that you have. Please excuse me with my graphics in my presentation. However, I will share you this presentation later on, and in later today, you will see how we can connect with marketplaces, with a commerce site, B2C, B2B, and the order management system. And this is so essential, and this is so important. VTEX is one of the only platforms in the world that provides retailers 3 solutions in one with no additional cost. We enable retailers to be an e-commerce site, a B2B, B2C. We enable retailers to be a marketplace. So you can be your own Amazon, you can be your own Alibaba. You can have different suppliers selling their products and services in your store. Or also, you can use VTEX technology and connect with the Amazons, with the Alibabas, with the different marketplaces you have in your region, and sell your products through VTEX in these different platforms. And additionally, and this is not less important, logistics. VTEX has their own OMS, order management system. In our OMS, you can orchestrate every single product, inventory, warehouse, shipping point, pickup store, collect from store, every single functionality on e-commerce, you can orchestrate in your platform. So you don't have to create this technology. We enable you to be a full omni-channel commerce site. How do we do this? So we digitalize all your inventories. We connect, we have an architecture. Our infrastructure is open APIs. So basically we can connect with any system that you currently use. And we connect your inventories, your products, your logistics carriers, or last miles. You can choose any last mile you want. We can connect those last miles to your store. You can use any warehouse. If it's third-party owned or if it's directly owned, we can connect your warehouse. We can connect your shipping docks where you're gonna be starting distributing your products. And you can provide your consumer, if it's in desktop, tablet, or mobile, one single source of truth. If I log into your store, I'll be able to see this shirt, and I will see it available, and I will know if you're using VTEX that you currently have stock in this shirt, and I can buy it. But you can ship it from the closest physical store, or you can ship it from the closest warehouse store. You can choose, but the objective is not to lose any sales from this. So what's happened in COVID? Supply chains has been affected. Most customers are not able to serve their ending consumer because they know they have the shirt. They know they have it in stock, but they don't know where it is. So once we digitalize all these products, if I log into your store, I'll be able to find it, see it, buy it, pay it, and you will be receiving the order, knowing exactly where it is, connecting it with a last mile provider, and shipping it to my home, my office, or maybe even to the physical store. So I would choose to go in and collect it from there. So there is also another thing, and it's mobile. I heard a presentation talking about not every retail has a mobile experience in their stores, in their e-commerce sites. And that's fine. We don't want entrepreneurs making a large investment in mobiles. So what we have done in VTEX is that we have enabled PWA, Progressive Web Apps. In these PWAs, a desktop version in VTEX is automatically converted into an application, automatically, with no additional payment, with no additional work. It automatically adjusts so you can either navigate in your desktop, in your tablet, or in your mobile, and use the same functionalities that you have available in your normal version. This allows, by using VTEX, to reach out to any type of consumer. Consumers now have different personas. So once you start engaging with different buying personas, you'll be able to address new consumers, new markets, be able to increase your revenue, and increase your loyalty as well. So this is just a very brief summary of what we can help you work in VTEX. I'm very happy in moving forward the conversation if you have any doubts or questions. And also, I'll be looking forward to having a conversation later on with you during our webinar. Thank you very much for your time. I look forward to talking to you.
Thanks very much, Pablo, and thank you for your patience in waiting for your turn as well. Your last but not certainly not least, and we very much look forward to your webinar, which you will all be able to access and log into through the Central Asia Trade Forum website. There's a link there where you can access it. And so, without further ado, we've had a fantastic panel. Apologies, we're out of time, but please join Pablo's great presentation afterward, and join me, please, in thanking the panelists. This was an excellent panel. Really appreciate everybody's time, and we look forward to many more interactions of this kind. Hopefully, this is just the start of a long conversation. So, thank you very much.